My name is Wyatt. I'm a 40-year-old trucker from Colorado, and I've spent most of my nights hauling freight through the Rocky Mountains. It's a job that demands constant vigilance, especially during those late-night runs when the roads are quiet and anything can happen. Last Tuesday, I was making my usual nighttime run. The sky was clear and the stars were out, but the winding mountain roads were as treacherous as ever. I had just passed through a particularly sharp turn when I noticed a car ahead of me swerving erratically. At first, I thought the driver might be drunk, but as I got closer, I saw something that made my heart race. The car was drifting from side to side, nearly hitting the guardrails. I decided to get a closer look, so I accelerated and pulled up alongside the car. To my horror, I saw the driver slumped over the wheel, his head tilted at an unnatural angle. Blood was trickling down his face, glistening in the headlights. Is he unconscious, or worse? I muttered to myself, my hands gripping the wheel tightly. I quickly grabbed my phone and dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? I'm driving on Route 34, about 20 miles west of Estes Park, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. There's a car swerving all over the road. The driver looks unconscious, and there's blood on his face. The dispatcher's voice was calm but urgent. Can you describe the vehicle and the driver's condition? It's a dark blue sit-in. The driver looks like he's been hurt badly. He's slumped over the wheel, and the car is all over the place, I replied. Can you try to get him to stop safely? Yeah, I'll try, I said, ending the call and focusing on the car again. I honked my horn and flashed my lights, trying to get the driver's attention. The car didn't respond, continuing to swerve dangerously. Come on, man, wake up, I shouted, my voice echoing in the cab of my truck. Suddenly, the car veered off the road, crashing into a ditch with a sickening crunch of metal and glass. I pulled over and ran towards the wreck, my heart pounding. Is he still alive? What if he's dead? Questions raced through my mind as I reached the car. The driver's side window was shattered, and the man inside was motionless. Blood covered his face and chest. I reached in, careful not to cut myself on the broken glass, and felt for a pulse. There it was, faint but present. Hang in there, buddy, I whispered. Soon, the sound of sirens filled the night air. Paramedics and police arrived quickly, and I stepped back to let them do their work. I watched as they carefully extricated the driver from the car and loaded him into the ambulance. One of the officers approached me. You the one who called it in? Yeah, that was me, I said, still shaken. You did good, he said. This guy's been shot. Road rage incident from what we can tell. Your quick call probably saved his life. I nodded, the reality of the situation sinking in. Is he going to be okay? They're rushing him to the hospital now. He's got a chance, thanks to you, the officer replied. As I climbed back into my truck, I couldn't shake the image of the bloody driver from my mind. The Rockies were beautiful but unforgiving, and that night, I realized just how quickly things could go from routine to life-threatening. I continued my drive, but the tranquility of the night was shattered, replaced by a lingering sense of unease. What if I hadn't been there? What if I hadn't acted quickly enough? Those questions haunted me for the rest of the journey, a stark reminder of the fragility of life on the open road. My name is Caleb. I'm a 34-year-old journalist from New York, used to the city's constant noise and chaos. But that night, I was driving back from an assignment in upstate New York, through a desolate stretch of highway. The silence out there was unnerving. It was around midnight when I first noticed the car behind me. At first, I didn't think much of it. Maybe they were just on the same route. But after several miles, no matter how fast or slow I went, the car stayed right on my tail. Why are they following me? I muttered, glancing nervously in the rearview mirror. I decided to change lanes, hoping they'd pass. they didn't. Instead, they mimicked every move I made. My heart began to race. Should I call the police now, or wait a bit longer? I asked myself, trying to stay calm. Up ahead, I saw a rest stop. I decided to pull over, hoping the car would just drive past. But as I slowed down and pulled in, so did they. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. What do they want? I'd wondered, my mind racing through possibilities. I parked and watched as two men got out of the car. They started walking towards me. My instincts kicked in. Don't wait to find out, I thought. I slammed the car into gear and sped off, tires screeching. The men broke into a run, but they didn't catch me. As I sped down the highway, I dialed 911. What's your emergency? I'm being followed by a car. Two men just tried to approach me at a rest stop, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Where are you now? The dispatcher asked. I'm on Highway 9, heading south. They're still behind me, I replied, glancing in the mirror. The car was still there, gaining on me. Keep driving. We're sending units to intercept, she said. I kept my foot on the gas, my eyes darting between the road and the rearview mirror. Why won't they stop? I asked aloud, frustration and fear mixing in my voice. After what felt like an eternity, I saw flashing lights up ahead. The car behind me suddenly slowed down and turned off the road, disappearing into the night. I pulled over, my hands shaking as the police approached. Are you okay? An officer asked. Yeah, I think so, I said, taking deep breaths. Who were those guys? The officer exchanged a look with his partner. We've had reports of carjackings and assaults in the area. You did the right thing by calling us. Carjackings? Assaults? What would have happened if they caught me? The questions tumbled out, my voice barely a whisper. Let's just be glad they didn't, the officer said. We'll escort you back to the city. You'll be safe. As I followed the police back to the city, my mind replayed the night's events. The desolate highway, the car trailing me, the men approaching in the dark. I couldn't shake the feeling of being hunted, of narrowly escaping something terrible. What if I hadn't pulled over? What if I hadn't sped off? I kept asking myself, each question sending a chill down my spine. Back in the city, the familiar noise and chaos felt oddly comforting. The experience left me shaken, a stark reminder of the dangers that lurk even in the most mundane situations. I knew I'd never look at a lonely stretch of highway the same way again. The thought of those men, their intentions unknown, haunted me long after I parked my car and stepped into the safety of my apartment. My name is Ryan. I'm a 32-year-old aide consultant from Chicago. Last night, after a grueling workday, I was driving home on an almost empty highway. The occasional truck would zoom past, but otherwise, it was just me and the dark road ahead. As I approached a dimly lit rest stop, I saw a woman on the side of the road, waving frantically. Against my better judgment, I decided to stop and help. Is she really in trouble, or is this some kind of trap? I wondered, my mind racing. I pulled over and rolled down my window. The woman was visibly shaken. My car broke down, she said, her voice trembling. Can you give me a ride? Where do you need to go? I asked, glancing around nervously. Just a few miles up the road, she replied. I hesitated but finally unlocked the door. She got in, and we started driving. As we went on, she began asking strange questions. Do you live alone? Do you often drive this late? Why does she want to know that? I thought, my unease growing with each question. We passed a police car parked on the side of the road. Suddenly, the woman lunged for the wheel, causing the car to swerve violently. What are you doing? I yelled, struggling to regain control. I managed to steady the car, but before I could react, she bolted from the vehicle and disappeared into the night. My heart pounded as I pulled over and tried to process what had just happened. Who was she? Why did she do that? The next morning, I saw a news report. A woman matching her description had been involved in a brutal robbery earlier that evening. Did I almost become her next victim? I asked myself, a chill running down my spine. The experience left me shaken. I couldn't stop thinking about what could have happened if I hadn't regained control of the car. The empty highway, the woman's frantic waving, her strange questions. It all played over and over in my mind. From now on, I knew I'd be much more cautious about stopping for strangers, no matter how desperate they seemed. The memory of that night would stay with me, a disturbing reminder of how quickly a simple act of kindness can turn into a nightmare.